When it comes to these sci-fi animes that drop like it seems once a year, Netflix never misses. From Cyberpunk Edgerunners to Pluto, from last year's Terminator Zero, now we got Moonrise. Moonrise is a brand new anime that comes from Wit Studio. Wit Studio is the same studio that brought us the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan, Ranking of Kings, the first season of Vinland Saga and Vivi, and the list goes on. Wit needs no explanation. They're also doing the One Piece remake, The One Piece, and this series is just really incredible. So I'm going to do my best to kind of break everything down, get to the important parts of the story, and just give you my overall thoughts on this season. And I don't know if they are going to do a season 2. It kind of just left it open-ended, but also seems like final at the same time. But I'm gonna get into all of that. Careful for spoilers if you haven't watched this yet. This has 18 episodes. They're both dubbed and subbed out, so yeah, definitely come back if you haven't watched it yet. And so essentially what this story is following is we are in like a distant future where there's life on the not only on Earth but on the moon as well, and they're getting ready to celebrate this whole orbit elevator being initiated, another kind of pathway to connect with the moon, and everything kind of seems peaceful because you don't have war or poverty on the Earth, or the illusion of it. And everything is ran by this AI called Sapientia. It's a very difficult name. I'm just going to reference it as the AI. It's kind of sort of like Skynet in a way. Very similar to that. But our main character here goes by the name of Jack Shadow. And the series begins with the first like 6 episodes where we see him and his crew on this mission on the moon, and they pretty much tell us the backstory and how they got there, and how Jack was adopted into this family, and he's supposed to be inheriting the company and whatnot, but he's kind of reckless. He doesn't really want anything to do with that. He has a really close group of friends that go by the name of Giorn. It's pretty much George without an E. Reese, that's his like main kind of love interest in this. She is also the one that's the head of this unit that they are a part of. We have Eric, where Eric's father is the one that created this tech called Engrave, and the Engrave tech is really fucking dope. So pretty much anything that has E2 material is able to be manipulated. Like, you can make anything out of this Engrave tech, which is really fucking cool. Like, you see Jack make a sniper, a sword, or even a fork. It's really crazy tech. And just how they use it as like exosuits as well. The exosuits is really cool. It kind of reminds me of Kaiju number 8 and a little bit of like Psycho-Pass and stuff like that. There's a lot of different inspirations in this series. So going back to Jack, and they're getting ready to celebrate this new orbital, elevator, until something goes completely wrong and it gets destroyed. Jack's parents end up getting killed, and it's looked at as like an act of terrorism. So now Jack is looked at like as a suspect in all of this, and now he gets put onto this team of other kind of criminals, but it's a mixture of like criminals and just higher authorities, or just different types of soldiers and stuff like that. That's where we get introduced to Zoan and Duan, and this is how that group pretty much forms, and they show you all that in the first 6 episodes, and then they follow up by showing you another character that goes by the name of Mary, But before we get to Mary, Phil comes back into play. Phil is the character that you see below Jack. This is his brother. We also get the explanation on, who they are. They both grew up on this ship led by Bob Skylum, is like the main antagonist for a good majority of this first half of the season. He's the one that kind of declares independence from Earth and starts this whole war between Earth and the moon. So now that Jack realizes that Phil is still pretty much alive, and he's masking himself as Bob Skylum because that's kind of like the symbol for the people of the moon, we get to Mary's character, where her character is kind of like a mystery. She's looking for her brother, not knowing that her brother is also Phil. She has a connection. And once you see that Mary is also a key character in all of this, there's this big looming threat called the L zone, where it's this thing that it could be explained as just like this blob that just eats everything, and if it's in the wrong hands, it could just be disastrous. It could wipe out a whole entire city. But Mary is the core to the L zone, so that makes her a very important character. And as that kind of goes on, once we get to episode like 13 or 14, we see all this kind of conflict of these characters not really knowing what side to be on. Like Reese definitely struggles with that, just having her love for Jack and also trying to stay on the mission. She kind of becomes consumed by hatred, and now it becomes like a mission to not only kill Mary, because if we kill Mary, they're able to kind of get control of the L zone for other nefarious reasons. Originally, their plan was to assassinate Bob Skylum, but then it just became so chaotic and things started to escalate, and now people are kind of on the other side of things as far as just being on the opposing sides of each other now, where people used to be friends. And seeing all that come to a head, we see these robots that are constantly being used. They're these things called Seed 3s, and Jack is one of these seeds. They're all kind of different. You have Seed 1, that's Jack. Seed 2 is Phil, and C4, I think, is Wisby. That's Phil's arm, but also helps protect Seed 8, which ends up being Mary. And we have the Moon Chain also. Don't want to forget about them. They are kind of like Phil's commanders. You have Salamandra, which she is the best out of the bunch. You have Wise, which he is kind of like the spokesperson. He is the most villainous out of the bunch. Then you have Wendy and Harbinger, where Wendy is kind of like their tech person and the Harbinger is the muscle. That whole crew is very similar to the VC3 unit that we follow with Jack and all of them, and how they end up kind of being on the same side at the end of all of this, and how this whole first season concludes, where just each episode is just action-packed, has a lot of lore and world building that's incredible. You have Jack, like a year later, after the whole thing went down in episode 13, he now joins the Moon Chain and the Rebels, and this leaves Reese with no choice but to kind of go along with following through for the mission, just to listen to the AI. The AI kind of controls everything, and she has Mary does the rights because she was able to hack into the C3 mother, which turns all the bots against the rebel army and stuff like that. And that kind of becomes very dangerous, as there are still civilians on Earth that are getting caught up in the crossfire as well. Now she has a choice to make. She points the gun at Mary and feels like she's just still conflicted because she's gone on this journey and just, she's not completely heartless. She's just kind of heartbroken right now. She doesn't know what she should do. And then this engrave kind of forces her hand into shooting Mary, and now the L zone is completely out of control. Wisby is out of commission for the most part, and it's up to Phil and Jack to get her back, because now Jack has this ability where he can kind of connect with all these different seeds. He kind of needs the seeds to access his power, however they pretty much explain it. But he's the only one that is able to kind of get through to Mary and get her out of the situation and pretty much neutralize the L zone. And then Phil pretty much turns himself in, which ends up being part of his plan to kind of self-sacrifice himself, kill everybody that was in that room, and disrupt the AI. And this causes Earth to go into a great chaos. But now the moon has another chance to kind of make right. And now Jack is at the head of things, and he kind of disbands the whole needing a king and giving the power back to the people. This is what Phil has always wanted. This is what Bob Skylum has always wanted. This was just a fantastic series overall, man. It was beautiful. The visuals were on point. I think there's definitely a case for this to be anime of the year for me. I don't know if they're going to do a second season. It just seems like this is only the beginning. I'm curious to see where this goes with these characters. Will there be another villain that rises from Earth, or, you know, because it seems like everybody's at peace for right now, and it's probably going to be temporary. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts if you get around to checking out Moonrise. How did you feel about it? Who are some of your favorite characters? What were some of your favorite moments? I think this had some really dope action sequences, and just like I said earlier, with the consistent action through each episode, I never felt bored. The pacing was on point. Never felt like the pacing dragged or anything like that. I just hope we get a second season. But this is just my thoughts on the first season. Till next time, I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.